All right. Well, after 5 years, 98 matches, 55 wins, 15 draws, and 28 losses, Jurgen Klinsmann is out as manager of the United States men's national team, and apparently hasn't been officially announced yet, but several good reporters are reporting that Bruce Arena is, in fact, going to be rejoining the team. Men, what do you think about this?
Well,
God save the Queen, bros.
Oh, wow. We're joined by Jurgen Klinsmann.
Hey, how are you guys? Welcome to England
great.
now, yeah?
Yeah, England, that's where you're going next?
Well, I told Sunil that I was too good for the United States now. Jermaine Jones and Michael Bradley and John Brooks, they stabbed me in the back. So I said, Sunil, I must go somewhere more appreciative of my efforts.
He would fit right in England too, wouldn't he? I mean, it would be a complete and utter explosion at the end if he were to manage that team. Although I don't think he'd get hung up in some sort of a Guardian hidden camera scam. So maybe it would be better than Allardyce. But yeah, you know what's funny is Jurgen was up until the last two matches by winning percentage our winningest coach in history. But because he lost those two, he dropped ever so slightly behind Bruce Arena. So I guess we're moving on now. It took a little bit for Sunil to pull the trigger, but he did, to his credit. I think it's the right move, and I think Bruce is the right call for now. I'm a little bit annoyed that we're going backwards instead of forward, and I think Jurgen, it was worth a shot with him to try to push us forward. It just didn't work. Bruce is the right guy for now, but I think after 2018, you really want to be looking at something.
Well, everything I'm seeing, it's Tab Ramos after 2018, but Tab Ramos.
I would be fine with that.
Bruce, and that'll work.
Well, and yeah, they've really been setting him up for that. So I think there's a good shot at that. I think Bruce has a purpose at this point. I think that's really why we're doing this. I mean, let's just assume. I mean, I think all the indicators point there. So we'll certainly pretend, but while we don't know for sure, I would say it's a good plan to say there's a good chance that it's going to be him. It is. What's that?
I said, although I am saddened that it's Bruce Arena, not Ryan Giggs. I'm all about the Ryan Giggs trade today. Or Harambe, take it.
Giggs can't help but get passed up for a job. So,
got comments coming in from a Mexico fan. He says, "Congrats for firing Klinsmann. He thinks Sasha Kleshton should have been our number 10." Thank you, Darth Crone, and I agree with you.
Absolutely. I don't have a problem with Pulisic as the 10. It's just that realistically at this point in his career and with the kind of speed and the build he has, put him out wide where he can do more. And I think it's easier to replace the skill he has with Kleshton right now in the middle. And then you can let Bradley and Kleshton work. And then you give him the opportunity to work outside wide where he can exploit kind of his speed and also then move some of the game wide.
Correct.
And you're not just putting all the pressure of the center of the game on him.
Correct me on this one. Going back to the 2002 team, if I recall correctly, wasn't Landon on one side and DeMarcus Beasley on the other with
Yep. Yeah.
And
John O'Brien
and Claudio Reyna in the middle.
And Claudio, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that worked out pretty well for him last time.
The funny thing
just ask Portugal.
The funny thing about that too.
Get youth and speed on the wings and say good luck keeping up with it.
Yeah.
If you guys remember
I think conceptually that works. And I'm guessing Bruce will figure that out. Even at his old grumpy age, he'll figure that out.
It was Bruce actually who switched him in that Mexico match in the round of 16 to a 3-5-2, catching Mexico off guard, and he got praised for doing that. So kind of an ironic bit of a twist there on that, because, of course, Jurgen switched him to a 3-5-2 against Mexico, and it was a disaster.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, when you think about it, Bruce did that kind of out of nowhere in that game. It wasn't just he didn't even have 3 days of training. So in that regard, yeah, it did work out much better for him than it did for Jurgen.
Guys, Brandon wants to know, does Jermaine Jones play for the U.S. again?
Yes. Yes, he still has a role. Bruce will figure it out. Bruce, like him or hate him, and he's cranky as fuck, let's face it, but he does know how to put the best 11 on the field. As a place, I still think he's in the best 18 as of right now. May not start, but he still definitely has a place when you need somebody to absolutely go kamikaze and not play any position whatsoever.
Yeah,
I question that.
Well, of course
I
you do. You'll be wrong, but you can question it, but you'll be wrong.
We'll see. No, I think realistically, and this is why I had a problem. It's not that Jermaine can't still fill a role. It's not that he's not still a valuable player. It's just that you're not going to put him in place of Michael Bradley. And who else are you going to put him in place of? He doesn't have the speed or the range to play out wide. He doesn't have the clearly he's not one of our best in the back four. You want to make room for youth like Pulisic, and I think Kleshton needs to be out there at this point. So where the hell do you put him? I mean, you can try putting him on the right, but I don't know that you need that necessarily. The only way I could see it, and this is the one caveat I'll have, is since we're putting so much attacking pressure on DeAndre Yedlin, it does give him a better defender to guard in front of him. But I still think that's why Bedoya is out there. Bedoya is a better defender, and I think a better kind of, at this point, rangier player than Jermaine Jones.
Oh, I didn't say. Let me step back. I'm sorry if I implied he was still in the 11. He may not be in the 11. He's still in the 18, though.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I'll give that.
Hey, need a red card in the 60th minute. He's your guy.
Need somebody to stomp a ref? Yeah, Jermaine's your guy.
Hey, and with CONCACAF refereeing, you may need someone to go slide tackle a referee. Jermaine's your guy.
A lot of them would deserve it, I would say. One thing that sort of piggybacks on that is Bruce Arena has had comments in the past, sort of Abby Wambach style, about foreigners on the USMNT. He's clarified.
Somebody say a foreigner? Yeah.
He's clarified those and said, he just means you have to believe in the shirt. You got to care. You've got to want to be there. This to me is not a problem. Nowhere, no how. Let's face it. Anybody who's choosing the United States over a side like England, like Germany, like anybody else, they believe in what they're doing. They're not doing it for sheer shits and giggles, or else they wouldn't have done it.
I don't know that we're getting anybody who
will try and go to somebody else.
I don't know that we're getting anybody who could absolutely choose from either of those two teams. I mean, we're certainly combating with Mexico right now. Are we truly fighting against Germany and England? I mean, yeah, there were some people in the German camp who wanted Fabian. But
the guy from Arsenal, the kid from Arsenal.
Oh, Gideon Zalewski.
I mean, he was a guy that Germany wanted. He could have, I guess, played for Ethiopia as well, because that's where his parents were born. But he's an interesting one because he's sort of he's culturally probably an American because he grew up here. He speaks with an American accent. He grew up in Maryland or wherever it was. Whereas you've got a guy who, you say U.S. born people. Julian Green was born here, but speaks with a German accent because he was raised and cut his teeth in Germany. So there's so many different layers to this. Yeah, I don't see it being an issue. I don't know that this would be able to pull people from Germany like Jurgen would, or really from anywhere, because that is one good thing about Jurgen is that his name got people to come here. But I don't see it being a huge issue.
No, I think Bruce's ego is bigger than what his commentary is. Just because Bruce said it 2 weeks ago, I don't think he cares what he's, whatever he.
Did we lose TJ?
Sounds like we've lost TJ. I will say Darth Crone says we need to take Wet Herrera.
I like him.
We win it Azteca.
I think he's smart. I think he's got balls. I think he'd be a great coach. I don't know how well he speaks English. I don't know that I've ever heard him speak English. So we'd have to do everything through translators for our guys who don't speak Spanish. But yeah, I like him, but I don't think he's the right guy for now. Let him stay at Tijuana and do his thing there, and we'll see maybe in 2018.
Yeah.
But, this sort of with Bruce coming back, it sort of opens a door. Are we going to see the return of this guy right here? Or not?
999.
for not for you, but for Landon to stay in LA, he's going to have to like whoever is coaching in LA. I don't see Landon playing for any other club team. Next year, if he's going to make up his mind and do it again, it's going to have to be a coach that he likes. And he's got to be playing club soccer to play at the international level, I would assume. So it's going to have to be the right scenario for him to keep playing. And then I could see Bruce calling him in again, and I could see Landon wanting to wear the shirt again. But maybe I'm wrong on that.
I don't think it's unheard of. I mean, I think it's still unlikely. If nothing else, Donovan's getting older. I mean, even, by 2014, realistically, he wasn't a starter because his knees were just shot. But he is back. He did start for the Galaxy, and Bruce clearly likes him. He clearly likes Bruce. There is an affinity there that maybe overcomes some rationality. Plus, if nothing else, he brings the weight of being Landon Donovan. I mean, it's sort of like, I assume Wayne Rooney will keep playing for England long after Wayne Rooney should play for England. Steven Gerrard could probably still walk in and play for England today simply because he's Steven Gerrard. There are certain players for each country who just carry an extra weight.
Rafa does.
So, yeah. Let's not bring him. I was going to say Blanco, but
I love Blanco. One of the few Mexican guys I actually do love. And it's because he played for the Fire and I got to see him.
Yeah, and he was fun, and he was cool.
Fun. He was a warrior. Yeah, I don't feel the same about Rafa Marquez. I respect
Darth Crone. Oh, sorry. Darth Crone is not on board with Landon. I'm not saying it's going to happen either. I mean, to me, it's probably past. I mean, clearly his time has passed. Clearly he's not amongst our best 11 even. How old is that picture of him? He has hair and he looks so young.
I know. It was a quick find on the internet. About Landon, though, did you see? I know you saw because we talked about it, but I'll phrase it that way for the viewers. Did you see the front page of USsoccer.com today, right after Jurgen got fired?
That was good.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, check our tweet.
Yeah, go check our tweet at USfanTV. But the banner ad above the Jurgen firing story had Landon sort of looking down at Jurgen.
Brady Bunch style.
Yeah, Brady Bunch style. And what was the wording on it? I don't have it in front of me. I'm pulling it up here. Raise your game. The ad said, I think it was an insurance ad. It said, raise your game. And Landon's looking down at a picture of Jurgen with the announcement that he's just been fired. 88 retweets on that at this point, thanks to our friends at Men in Blazers for retweeting it. You want to know what it feels like to have your phone blow up, have them retweet one of your things.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that was a pretty funny little thing. I don't think it was intentional, but some people were calling it intentional. They thought it was
I'm sure it wasn't, but that would be funny if it was. I was kind of surprised how quick U.S. Soccer went to Twitter to announce that, and that they were fairly straightforward in their statement. I mean, they said, Jurgen Klinsmann will no longer be manager, or is no longer manager and technical director of the United States. I kind of expected them to sit on it, sort of like they've sat on everything since the Costa Rica match. But I was a little bit surprised. Maybe they're doing this to draw some attention away from last night's story on 60 Minutes with the women.
Yeah, there is that, and like I said with that, I didn't expect Sunil Gulati to say anything in that because it's a pending lawsuit. But with this, I kind of expected this to happen sooner. But I'm glad it happened, and it's still plenty of time for Bruce to get things ready for January. So no real issues there.
Yeah, I think that's really is that there's time for him to see the team. You've got the January. I assume they're going to add another January friendly, so there'll be a second one. I mean, I'm just guessing here, but I would think he's going to want more chances to see the players. Well, whomever takes the team is going to want more chances to see the players, see what they're bringing, see what he has to work with, and I can't imagine they're going to stick with just one friendly in that camp. Plus, if he's got all those MLS players, if nothing else, he's just going to want to keep them in shape or, healthy, working out in the off season. So I would say it's good money. Now it may be some crappy, terrible team that is just it just has a space to fill as well. I haven't really looked at who else has friendlies or has availability, I guess, in January. But you would think, we've got to get get the team together and work some things out ahead of the qualifiers in March.
I mean, you can only do so much with those camps because the European guys generally don't come over, but it's better than nothing. And it lets Bruce kind of get his feet wet again as national team coach. I don't think he'll have much problem with that, though. Back to Jurgen for a minute. One of our commenters, Jose, says he agrees and disagrees with what we've said about Jurgen, but one of the things that he noted was Jurgen said that he was doing what he was hired to do, which was create a more proactive style of play for us, not just, lobbing balls forward, but actually build up and some of the things that you would want to see. And I think that was in everybody's minds when Jurgen was hired. But he says he failed because of some fundamental reasons, stuff like our youth system, which is pretty flawed, which I agreed with. It shouldn't cost $2,000 to play club soccer. You're pushing out a lot of potentially pretty talented kids if you're going to charge that much. And just the fact that, soccer isn't the biggest sport in America, although that's, changing. It's certainly gaining stature, but it's still not anywhere near some of the other big sports at this point. I see
it's not pulling the same money, the same coverage, despite the youth involvement. It's not pulling the same kind of numbers at the adult level. I mean, any U.S. game, I assume even those like 7 a.m. London NFL games are pulling better ratings than a U.S. game. Now, granted, some of that is the U.S. Most of the U.S. games aren't on national broadcast TV, but even if it was up against NFL, it's still not. It's still going to be dwarfed in ratings. So, it's true. I do agree. The youth system, it's still geared towards, payment. You got to play in a club system, and then to go into college. It's still not designed to go into professional levels. And I think that's one of the reasons why the U.S. is not. I think it probably is the biggest reason why the U.S. isn't a truly elite nation in the world. I mean, if you look at any other sport where we train essentially the same as everyone else in the world, tennis, swimming, whatever.
Sure, yeah.
We're the best, or we're one of the best. It's somewhere. Even if we don't have the best right now, we have one of the best, or we've been the best at some point in the last 20 years. When this is the one sport in which we train completely different from the rest of the world, and the rest of the world succeeds. Some of it, and this may always be a bit of our struggle, in that I don't think it'll ever be truly acceptable for a 14-year-old to be relatively professional at a sport, whereas in so much of the rest of the world, and some of that is because it tends to be a poor man's sport everywhere else, poor kid's sport, that there's a little more leeway for them. Their parents don't have the money to go, no, go get an education. I mean, kind of like Lionel Messi. If his parents were wealthy and could have paid for the shots he needed to grow, would he have gone to Barcelona? Probably not.
No, that's absolutely right. And that's one of the biggest problems. And I with what we have here in this country. And I think that is something, one of the many things that Jurgen was trying to fight. And we always, that's kind of the narrative on him, but I think it is kind of true. He's a good big picture guy. He's got good ideas. Yeah. I think the stuff that he's saying about, if we're going to have NCAA soccer, let's have it all year round. Let's have more regular training. Let's treat it more like it would be treated overseas, rather than, your season's 3 months and you're done now, because you've got to go pretend to be a student. I think he was right on a lot of things. And I think it was really worth a shot. but I think in the end, I would say that his in-game failures outweighed his big picture pluses.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's probably the kind of his epitaph. I mean, it is that his ideas were great, but he just couldn't execute them, or he was actually the one thing I'll say about that. I think that's true. I think that's all true, but I think the biggest problem was that he just talks such bullshit. Like if he was honest sometimes, or was more straightforward, didn't pretend that, I don't know, everything was rosy when it wasn't, or excuse me, everything was rosy for him when it wasn't, then I think maybe he would have gotten a little more leeway to try his ideas. I see Darth Crone says that Tyler Derrick, did I say that right? I don't even know how you pronounce his last name, is better than Guzan. I totally disagree on that. I think Guzan gets a bad rep because Howard's a great reaction save keeper, and Guzan's played for some shitty teams. Guzan is, to me, a less talented Brad Friedel. And granted, who isn't a less talented version of Brad Friedel? Like, Brad Friedel sets the gold standard for like probably every U.S. keeper until the end of time. They are both very good textbook. They position themselves well. He also plays the ball with his feet much better than Howard. The problem, Howard is to me is a better version of Casey Keller. Keller was also awesome for years, but not great with his feet. And the problem with reaction save goalies is they just don't last. Those guys, as soon as your reactions start to slow, all of a sudden they're getting beat. And I think that's really what happened to him and why he got chased out of, finally sent to the bench in Everton and then left. He has found some of it back now in MLS, but some of it's also that he's playing against lower caliber teams. I mean, you saw what happened with Keller, though. He hit 40, basically. It was like he hit a brick wall. Friedel was still playing in the EPL at 40. Now, granted, it was about 40, 41 when he finally had to step back and be a backup. But he was still playing at a much higher level 2 years or something after Keller had stopped. So I would think Friedel could probably still play in MLS, but
we saw him a couple of years ago at Toyota Park against when Tottenham was playing Fire, and I think Friedel was probably better than Sean Johnson on that day. So
yeah,
Friedel was amazing. I made a joke that now that the Galaxy have an opening, maybe that German based in LA will drop right in there and coach the Galaxy. Kevin C wrote, now he'll end up at LAFC instead. Maybe a good call there. He'd be a big name for them to bring in for their first season. I could see that.
That's actually a really interesting call. I hadn't even thought of that, but that is, and yeah, it would be perfect for him. He, in terms of like timing, they want to make a big splash, so they would probably like that. Will Ferrell certainly showed that he likes to support the team, so he probably wants to see Jurgen Klinsmann there.
It's worth a shot. I don't think Jurgen's terrible. I just think it was time to move on. I don't think he was working here. I think if you gave his ideas if you made him the technical director and you gave his ideas a long time, I think there'd be.
Oh yeah.
But,
yeah, I mean, it worked for him in Germany because they had the talent base that he could switch over to the young kids. So he had, I don't know, a little more success there, or well, technically he didn't have so much success, but he created the success or helped create the success in the future because he just had a larger talent base or a better talent base to draw from. But the ideas are similar. The purpose is the same. The long-term goal is the same. And I think in many ways, the long-term success could be the same, but you need, I think, to sustain, to continue to sustain the growth, you need active wins as well. And that's where maybe he's a little bit right in the, you can't judge me everything today. Sometimes we're going to see bad results. Okay, fine. But at the same time, in order to keep your job as a coach, in order to keep people happy, keep people wanting to go, keep people engaged, so they're buying tickets, so they're buying merchandise, whatever. He needs some wins, especially when you're talking about a sport where, yeah, it's not a religion here, as I see Darth Crone just said as well. No, it's not, and because of that, you need more engagement of the fans, and to get that, you need more victories. I mean, you need bandwagon fans. It works for everyone, but particularly for third or fourth tier sport, you need to maintain that. And to get that,
go ahead.
To get that, you need some victories. You need to not go to Costa Rica and get blown out 4-0, and the players all quit. Because then the people go, well, what the fuck was I just watching? This is terrible. Right. I don't want to see this shit.
Angelic375 writes, kind of wish Cameron Carter-Vickers was capped. Us too.
Agreed.
The conspiracy theory I threw out earlier was that maybe Jurgen knew he was going to be going to coach England and wanted to steal him for the English national team, but don't know about that. That was just kind of a little bit of speculation.
I think that's an interesting or funny conspiracy theory, but I think it's nothing more than a conspiracy. I don't see. I actually believe a little bit of Klinsmann's rhetoric yesterday, saying that, or at least probably Saturday when he did the interview, whatever it was, that he still feels secure in the job, or felt secure in the job. I don't think he truly looked at it as, oh, this is going to cost me my job, I'm out of here. So I don't think he was conscious enough to say at the time, well, I got to save somebody. Maybe I'm going to go to England. Maybe I could screw over the U.S. now, or whatever. I don't think in the 70th minute or something he was thinking about that. I think he was thinking more like, oh God, this is terrible. He was probably thinking, how bad does this make me look?
Ricardo Vera writes, can't believe the USA Federation finally fired him. He wants a committee of people like Donovan, Lawless, and Winalda to run the team. Sunil, he says, is a manager in the office and not a guy that should be in the field. Agree on that last point. As for the committee, I don't know. I think it'd be really interesting if Eric Winalda Winalda and Lawless, I think they even kind of like each other, but I also think they couldn't possibly get along well enough to make it work. And then there's Donovan, who knows again.
Yeah, he could pull a Trump and just walk away in the middle of it all. To get our prediction on what we think might happen to the presidency.
Winalda was on Alexi Lawless's podcast last week. It was tremendous. Those two guys should do a pod, like they should do it daily. Like it was absolutely tremendous.
I love that they both. I love that they both speak their minds. They'll kind of say whatever's on their mind. I love that. Lawless can be entertaining because he is the soccer Don King, but Lawless can be too pro-U.S. in his predictions of things, or in his discussions. Winalda I enjoy because until he picked the fight with Jim Rome, or attempted to, and then got fired, he was fun because he said whatever the hell came to his mind, and he was giving you real thoughts. It wasn't those times where you're watching the game going like, no, that was an unfair call, like you're screaming at the TV or something. He was saying what the fans think, and that was kind of fun. But
the problem is he might want to coach the team over Skype or whatever, like he did.
The Silverbacks.
Stay with his 6 kids or whatever it is in LA, and just do it over the internet or something. But all jokes aside, I think he'd be good. I do. He cares, and I just, not that Jurgen didn't, but it'd be nice to have somebody who's really cares.
Yeah, he definitely wears his heart on his sleeve. I think Klinsmann wears his ego on his sleeve, and Winalda does a bit of that too. I mean, there's a reason we always called him Winalda, but I don't know. I see Darth Crone's calling for saying the players clearly gave up on Klinsmann because they started with the 3-4-3 and then went to the 4-4-2. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think that's why the Costa Rica game was such a meltdown. Was the players have just given up. My great fear, and we talked about it earlier when we went live, was that if Klinsmann wasn't fired right here, that it would get worse. Because come March, the players are going to say, well, what the hell else do we have to do? Or what the hell else do we have to lose? And at that point, I think they could be, flushing the chance at 2018 away. And come on, how can we not qualify for the next World Cup? Like, Mexico got through with 2 wins for 2014. CONCACAF is so simple. We have to get through this. But it is still an embarrassing way to start. And I think it's fair to say the players just gave up on him, and then there was no choice left but to get rid of him.
I wonder.
And that's why, even to say that don't go back to Bruce Arena, I think it's less about going back, and I think it's more just about steadying the ship.
Right.
I don't see Bruce Arena as a guy they're bringing in because we're going to get something new out of him. They're bringing it in because he's just going to bring it back to center. And then we can get through 2018, and then we can reevaluate and figure out where we're going.
Yeah, exactly. Ricardo writes, here in Mexico, the president of the federation actually wanted to have the idea of having like a group of people come in and choose the new coach. Yeah, I mean, it's I think maybe for the coach after Bruce is done in 2018, maybe that wouldn't be a bad idea, because I don't know how I feel about Sunil. I don't think he's terrible, but maybe he could use some help, and I hope he is getting people's input on this too, and not just pulling
not
stuff
just taking
out.
money like he does the rest of the time.
I know he really, really, really wanted Klinsmann. He worked on that for a long time. I do wonder. I was going to bring this up too. Who's coming back? We joked about Landon, but in all seriousness, and Landon may, but who's coming back into this team now that Jurgen's gone? I could see Benny Feilhaber. I could see Darlington Nagbe.
I think Nagbe's probably the number one choice that you have to think. Feilhaber's interesting. My guess is he's probably bordering on too old, because in many ways you'd want to bring him back for like Sasha's position, and I don't think. Unless Bruce has a different take on, unless the next coach has a different take on it, I think Kleshin kind of has that spot locked down. You're probably not going to bring in a guy who's roughly the same age to play roughly the same position. You're going to want to look probably to youth.
We're going to have to run here soon, but I'm going to leave you guys with this. The last 2 teams to have fired Jurgen Klinsmann went on to win the World Cup and the Champions League after he was gone. So 2018, here we come.
Apparently the sky's the limit now.
All right.
We're going to win the World Cup and the Champions League? I didn't even know we could play in it.
Landon says, thanks for joining us. Goodbye, Jurgen.
It was good knowing you.
Auf Wiedersehen, Jurgen.
Auf Wiedersehen. See you tomorrow. Oh, I mean, in England. God save the Queen.